Good afternoon. Welcome to the Utah Board of Water Resources Board Meeting. Today is March 17th, 2021. It is 1:00 p.m. This is an electronic meeting. My name is Blaine Ipson. I'm chair of the Board of Water Resources. First item to be covered, that we're going to read the COVID-19 electronic meeting notice. Says, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the ability of the virus to spread from person to person, the governor has implemented a number of executive orders directed at controlling spread of the virus by minimizing face-to-face interactions. Public gatherings are strongly discouraged by the CDC, state of Utah, and local health departments since they facilitate face-to-face contact and pose an elevated risk for virus transmission. The Division of Water Resources and the chair of this public body have determined that public gathering at Board of Water Resource meetings presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who attend. As such, this meeting will be conducted using a fully electronic format. This meeting format is authorized by recent amendment to the Utah Code and executive order by Utah Governor Gary Herbert, and will be temporarily used in place of the in-person public meetings that usually occur around the state. Anyone wishing to comment on agenda topics in future meetings or to observe this meeting may do so by logging on to the division's webpage at www.water.utah.gov/comments/ where instructions and links are provided. So along with that electronic meeting notice, you will notice that part of this notice said it was executive order by Utah Governor Gary Herbert. We're still acting under the executive orders, some of them that were implemented, and we have been following. So welcome to our meeting, all who are here. First item, we will have a roll call from the board members. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I am present.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Present.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Present.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Present.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Here.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I'm here.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Here.
And again, my name is Blaine Ipson, and I'm with the Sevier River. As far as we will come back to having Director Adams right now identify those from staff and who you have. If you could do that, please, Director Adams.
Thank you. This is Todd Adams. Looks like the folks we have on the call are Ashley Upper Canal Company. Those of you that are with Ashley, do you want to identify yourselves, please?
Will you come identify yourself, please?
Can we? Then can we shut it off?
Yeah. You're all there.
Are we on?
Mhm.
Go ahead. Kurt Smune, Highline Canal.
I'm Troy Osler with Zipco Engineering.
And William Merkley with the UN Water Conservancy District. Sorry, we were in the other room. We apologize.
No problem. We just want to make sure we know who's here and who we're chatting with. So thank you for doing that.
And as we get going here, Bill Cook, who is president of the Ashley Upper Canal, will be joining us.
Okay. When we get to your project, we'll have you introduce again, but we just want to make sure we know who's at the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
The next individual, Ben Marett, Brian Dieter, Candace Hoschenjager, Carmen McDonald, Dave Lake, Gene Shawcroft, Joe Williams, John Levitt, Jordan Clayton, Lindsay Russell, Marisa Egbert, Marty Bushman, Randy Crozier, Randy's with the board, Randy Staker, sorry, Russell Barris, Russell Hadley, Sam Turpin, Shalane DiBernardi, Thad Sigmiller, Thane C., which is Thane Clark, and I know there's some more people with you, Thane. Do you want to announce who's all there?
I'm Andy Nickel. I'm the president of DMAD Companies.
with us. We obviously have Thane Clark with Bowen and Collins. And do you want a roll call of everybody else that's in the room with us? It's the entire board of the DMED company.
Yeah, would you please, so we can get it into the attendees, please.
Okay.
Jared Skane, Deseret Irrigation Company. Mark Peterson, Deseret Irrigation Company. Troy Davis, Delaware Irrigation Company.
Can you hear them as they're saying?
We can't. Just read them off for us, please.
I've got Jerry Skeen with Deseret Irrigation Company, Mark Peterson with Deseret Irrigation Company. I've got Troy Davis with Delta Canal Company, Jared Smith with Delta Canal Company, Chris Bunker, Melville Irrigation, Paul McCollum, Abraham Irrigation.
Thank you so much, and we hope you pass the test. There you go. Thank you. Todd Stoneley, Tom Cox, and Vale Water Association. Who's with you?
Slade Hughes.
Welcome. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that is who shows up on the Google Meets call. I know there's lots of others potentially out there in the YouTube land. So.
Okay, thank you, Director Adams, and welcome all who are with us, and including those who are out in YouTube land. As a matter of clarification, before we go any further, on the January meetings were mistakenly not posted on the public notice website. So while presentations were made and applicants were in attendance, no public comments were received. In order to assure opportunity for public comment, the action items from the January meetings will be reconsidered with proper notice, and any public comments provided. That will take place in this board meeting we're in right now. And I neglected to mention that earlier today, the board and those who were participating had an electronic board briefing meeting also this morning prior to this meeting. The first item on our agenda for this meeting is the approval of minutes. We are going to hold off on approving the minutes from the January meeting until our May meeting. And so there will be no action taken this meeting on approval of the minutes. So the next item on our agenda, there will be a NRCS snow report, and we welcome Jordan Clayton. And we mentioned early in our earlier briefing meeting that Jordan, things are looking up a bit from the gloom and doom predictions and things you had on our January, and they're looking better, but we hope you've still got some more magic that you can pull out of your hat for us. So Jordan, if you'll give us an update on the snow report, please.
Yeah, I'll do my best to provide as positive an outlook as possible. I apologize that it's not going to be quite as positive as I would like, but hopefully some better news than the last time that we were all together. Can you see my slide? Great, thank you very much. So again, to anyone that is unfamiliar with me and the agency, my name is Jordan Clayton. I'm the supervisor of the Utah Snow Survey as part of the NRCS. I'm going to include some similar slides to the previous briefing, and then I also wanted to add some additional details that I thought would be pertinent for this group. But we'll start with the typical progression, starting with, first of all, the snow water equivalent for the major basins in the state of Utah. This is as of today. And what's shown here, again, are the major basins that are colored by percent normal for the amount of water in the snowpack. This is a little bit of an improvement from the last time that we met, and I'll show that improvement in just a minute. But I wanted to make sure that all were familiar. The circles on this map are all the individual SNOTEL sites, and obviously the basins are shown as colored by the color scheme in the bottom left. I'm going to be going through the sub-basins in just a minute, but I wanted to first compare how this outlook compares with the previous time that we talked. The previous the previous briefing was given in January, and that's shown on the left side there. That was as of January 27th. And the briefing on the right, the map on the right, I should say, sorry, is as of today. You can see we've had some improvement, but there is still some room to improve quite a bit, particularly for southwestern Utah, but also for some other portions of the state. I wanted to go through with a little bit of a closer lens on different portions of the state. And so this is the Six Creeks area in general, and obviously stretching into Utah County. You can see the cottonwoods and some of the areas along the Six Creeks have benefited from some of the recent storms that we've had in this area. Definitely benefited from some lake effect snow, and that's been nice to see. But unfortunately, it hasn't benefited the entire state. But we'll start here. Moving to the northern portion of the state, the Logan and the Bear headwaters aren't doing quite as well, but still a little bit better than the last time that we met, in the 70s in terms of percent normal by and large. Again, we're talking about the water equivalent, the snow water equivalent in our snowpack. Moving to the Uintas and northeastern portion of the state and Duchesne headwaters. The Uintas did particularly well during this recent storm event that made the front pages for Colorado's snow. That also affected the north slope of the Uintas in particular. So you can see for really the only portion of Utah, we have these blue and green shades, which is that we're normal or above normal for those areas. South slope of the Uintas didn't feel the effects of that storm nearly as much because of the rain shadow effect. So we really saw the most of the benefit in that, again, northeastern extreme portion of the state. Central spine of the state, here we're getting into the Wasatch Plateau and other areas you can see on the map. Those areas are still, again, not where we want them to be, but they have experienced a little bit of improvement. One small basin there, 12 Mile, is doing pretty well based on just one or two sites, though. And then if we look at the entire southern portion of the state, again, a little bit of a mixed picture. The area around Moab and the La Salle Mountains also felt those recent storms. A little bit farther south into the Monticello Blanding area and the Abajo Mountains did not feel as much of those storms and as much of an increase from those recent events. And again, the southwestern portion of the state continues to be one of the areas that's been hardest hit this particular winter. Looking at the entire state at once, we see the current water year shown by the black line here. That's the amount of water equivalent in the snowpack, again, looking at the entire state at once. Currently at 79% of normal. That's relative to the green line, which is average or normal conditions. The rainbow colors in the background are the different percentiles based on the 30 years of observations. So you can see we've broken out of the bottom 10% in terms of our water equivalent and the bottom 10 percentile, but we're still fairly low. We're on the 25th percentile at this point, which is, again, a big improvement from where we were, but not where we want to be. I think it's important to look at projections moving forward. The way that this works is that we take all the observations that we've accumulated over the past 30 to 40 years, depending on the site, and we sort of snap them onto where we are currently with this water year. And that's what's shown with the spaghetti diagram. The middle portion of that spaghetti, if you will, I don't know if you can see my arrow here, but the middle portion of that is the most likely outcome. That's the 50% likelihood projection moving forward. That's what we anticipate to be the most probable. And then you can see the range of observations that we're projecting from the most improbable great snowpack that we might get and the most improbable worst snowpack that we might get moving forward from today. And if we consider those, we're currently, again, at about 11.6 inches of snow water equivalent. The 50% projection would put us at around 12.7 inches of snow water equivalent by the time we get to our peak. That would be 81% of normal relative to a peak snow water equivalent of about 15.5 inches. So we're not anticipating getting anywhere close to peak. The most likely outcome is that we'll be roughly 80% of normal this winter. Same thing for precipitation. This is the basinized precipitation information, same color scheme. Most of the state is in the 50 to 70% range or the 70 to 90% range. Same thing for precipitation, looking at the entire state at once. We're currently at 72% when you combine all the data across all those snow-tell sites. I've been talking about soil moisture in the past, and I wanted to reiterate the same story here. So what's shown on this diagram, on this map, are the individual snow-tell sites, but we also have scan sites, which are another network of weather stations that we have. Those ones are more representative for valley locations. And these are all for the 8-inch depth below the surface. And we have soil moisture sensors at other depths as well, but this one is one of the ones that's very useful for us from a water supply perspective. And you can see we really have the majority of the state that's well below average to below average, below 50% to that 50 to 70% category. But there are a few areas of blue and green that are showing up. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. The main point here is that these extremely dry soils are going to reduce the efficiency of our snowmelt runoff. We are really anticipating that being a major issue with our snowpack this year. I've been showing this graph a lot, and I want to keep showing it because it's important. The current water year, again, is this black line, and you can see the current water year is outside the range of observations from the past roughly 20 years. And it's really alarming how dry things are this year relative to what we've observed in the past. And so this is, again, a major point, again, about the efficiency of that snowmelt runoff when it occurs. We are anticipating a very inefficient, unfortunately, runoff and a lot of loss to the watershed. But something else that's going on in that soil moisture graph that I wanted to highlight here, this is zooming into the southwestern portion of the state and the subbasins. One of the things that may have jumped out, and I pointed it out as well, is that there are some soil moisture sensors that are showing up more as blue and green on this map, which means that they're closer to normal or above normal for this time of year. And that's really just because we're getting some early melt. I zoomed in on the Santa Clara, and this is the soil moisture graph for the Santa Clara. And what I wanted to highlight is this really rapid rise in the current soil moisture that's shown, again, in this black line, all the way jumping up from well below our observations to something that would be still in the bottom 10th percentile. And that's not, unfortunately, something we want to see this early in the season. That has to do with early melt of our snowpack, which isn't particularly encouraging. I apologize. I thought I would have better news this time, but unfortunately, I'm still delivering kind of a dire report, guys. This is another way to look at this. I wanted to show a little bit of, I wanted to show some data here. What's shown on with the blue lines here is the maximum temperatures for one of our snow-tell sites. This happens to be Current Creek in the Duchesne headwaters. So those are max temperatures for those given days going back roughly 30 days. And what's also shown with the black line here is the 2-inch soil moisture depth and the 8-inch soil moisture depth. And you can see both of them are responding to those above 0 temperatures. So this line right here is 0. You can see the temperatures shoot well above 0, and there's really a strong response in the soil moisture. The 2-inch sensor goes way up. The 8-inch sensor eventually starts to get watered down that depth as well. Again, this is early melt causing this increase in soil moisture, and now that's approaching the 20-inch sensor as well at that site. This is also concerning because we're seeing high snow densities across the state. High snow density is what we get right before the snowpack becomes ripe and then starts to melt. In some cases, that's already happening, as I've been saying. These green colors here are showing you the percent density of the snowpack across the state, and these colors are darker green and darker blue than we'd like to see for this time of year. If we use the same type of graph, but here we're looking at the change in snow density over the last 30 days, we see that the increases across the state are in the range of 4% to 11% for those light blue dots, and well above that for some of the blue or dark blue dots. And again, those are increases over the last 30 days in our snowpack density, which is an abnormal increase in our snowpack density. We would always see an increase this time of year, but this is an unusually large increase in our snowpack density. And to put that in perspective, this doesn't work for all the sites, but this shows for those same increases over the last 30 days, what percent normal that is. So in other words, for some of these blue dots here up in the Bear headwaters and in the Logan, we're looking at a greater than 150% of average in terms of the amount that we would expect the density to increase and what we're seeing this year. So the increases that we're seeing in snow density are much greater than we would have anticipated for those dots that you're seeing with the shading that's greater than green. I wanted to get a little bit more technical on this, so I apologize if I'm getting a little bit too nuanced, but hopefully this information is useful. Coming back to kind of a more general picture, these are the reservoir levels as of the beginning of the month, statewide versus some of the major basins in the state. The previous year is shown with the green bars, and the current year is shown with the blue bars. We're currently statewide at about 67% of capacity, which is down roughly 14% from last year. There is some, of course, regional difference here. The Duchesne isn't down nearly as much as some of the other basins in the state, such as the lower Sevier. You can see for yourself which ones have dropped the most. All this is impacting our stream flow forecasts. In particular, the below average snowpack, the poor precipitation, unfortunately, and the very, very dry soils are resulting in a rather pessimistic stream flow forecast from this year's snowpack, as is shown with the same colored scheme as before. Many of these stream flow forecasts are in the range of 25 to 35 or 40%, well below that 50% mark. So those red colors could be even darker if we had a shading below that. When you combine the reservoir information with the stream flow information, you get these surface water supply indices, and they're contextualized against the last 30 years. So what's shown here for the different basins in the state of Utah is how much water we anticipate to be available for these major basins. Again, looking at how much water is going to come out of the snowpack and adding that to how much we actually have in the reservoirs in those basins right now. And for anything that's less than 50%, we're doing worse than average, and anything that's less than around 25% in terms of this percentile, we're alarmingly low. And you see there's really a large number of basins that are alarmingly low in terms of the surface water supply index for those areas. You can compare with similar years for those different basins with the numbers that are on the right side there. This is a lot of information being delivered, and of course all this is much more digestible in our water supply outlook report, which was published a couple weeks ago. We'll have a new one coming out at the beginning of April. I also just wanted to show briefly some information from our colleagues at the U.S. Geological Survey. They've been showing these graphs at some of the meetings that I've been participating in recently, and I thought they'd be useful for this group. On the left side here shows for the percentages of stream gauges in the state of Utah, how many of them are doing really, really poor, this sort of bright red, versus much below normal, this sort of different shade of red. And you can see the other percentile classes. So this is looking at all the 65 stream gauges in Utah for March 17th here, which percentage of the state is undergoing these different conditions. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of green here. Much more of the state is in this orange, red, or deep red of shading. The cumulative percentage of all those in terms of the runoff is shown with this black line here. This is the current water year. When you add up all those stream gauges and compare it to other years in the state of Utah, the minimum from the previous set of observations is this orange line, and the maximum is the blue line. And most of the time it's between, it's in that green shading. But unfortunately this year, when you add up all the stream flow that's happening right now, we're below where we were at our worst previous time, which was 1977. So again, this is not our graph, but I wanted to share this from the U.S. Geological Survey. And I think folks are already familiar with the status of drought in the state of Utah. We're currently about 57% in D4, the worst drought category, a little over 90% in D3 or D4. So that's, again, a very, very concerning level of drought in the state of Utah. I apologize to not be able to deliver better news. Again, if you want full details about each basin and other aspects of the water supply outlook report, please go see our webpage, or I can email it to you if you're interested. And my contact information is listed at the bottom. That's all I have. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jordan. Board members, any questions that you would like to ask Jordan? Thank you, Jordan. I hope you can bring us better message in a month or two.
I would love to be able to do that.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda that again is we're reconsidering what we did in the January action items, deals with interstate stream appointments. And I think I neglected to mention those who are participating, if you can identify yourself when you do, and keep your mics muted except for when you're speaking. So the first item on the interstate stream appointments deals with Governor Cox's appointments of Utah's representatives to the Upper Colorado River Commission. And Director Adams, you or someone from staff, would you give us a little refresher on what we did in January, please?
Sure. At the beginning of January, a letter was sent by the governor to the Upper Colorado River Commission notifying them that Gene Shawcroft has been selected as the Upper Colorado River Commissioner. That also directed that myself be an alternate advisor and Candace also be alternate advisors, additional advisors, or whatever we want to call it, as well as appointing myself and Teresa Williams as alternate commissioners. With this, Gene will represent the state's interests on the Upper Colorado River Commission, as well as take the lead on the Colorado River negotiations, the discussions that are on. So what we need to do, what we need to have the board do, is ratify that appointment by Governor Cox. And just an FYI, Gene is here. If you want to ask him really all the hard questions, I'm sure he'd love to answer those. With that said, Mr. Chairman, that's what we're asking to do on that portion of it right now.
Thank you, Director Adams. Gene, welcome with us. What have you got that you would like to add to that, Gene?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. We spent a little time in your previous meeting, and for purposes of not repeating too much, I would just let you know that I am extremely honored and humbled to serve in this capacity. There are those who have represented the state very, very well in the past, and I am more than happy and willing to share whatever capacities I have to help bring attention to water in the state. Hopefully people will recognize the value. Jordan doesn't seem to produce a whole lot of water for us, so we can blame it on him. But certainly we need, as Utahns, to pay much, much more attention to our water. And I think this effort, along with the House Bill 297 that was passed, is an effort to bring attention to water, to help people recognize the value of water and the significance of the Colorado River water, not only to the Wasatch Front or along the Colorado River, but to the entire state. More than half of the people from the state get water from the Colorado River, and that's very significant. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I'll answer the hard ones. Todd will answer the easy ones. I just get to decide which ones are hard and which ones are easy. So
Thanks, Gene.
I like that. Board members, do you have any questions that you would like to ask either Director Adams or Gene? I know, Gene, last board meeting, we asked the question of historically, this position has resided with the water resources, and what were your plans on keeping the Board of Water Resources involved in the process and all of that? And I know you responded to that. Would you care to address briefly just to that again?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to do that. One of the things that's important to me is, as Todd mentioned, he and Teresa will serve as alternate commissioners, which is a great comfort to me because of Todd's experience and history. And also the state engineer, Teresa, has a tremendous amount of background and history. And so having those two very close makes a big difference, will help dramatically as we move forward. And I'm happy. I know that historically the commissioner has provided an update to your board periodically. I'm happy to do that. I believe your director will know as much as I do about what some of the details are, but I'm certainly happy to share with you at whatever timing you would like me to provide you updates on things as we move forward. I can tell you that in the last month, I have met at least a half a dozen times with the Upper Colorado River Commissioners, with the Upper Colorado River Commission staff, and at least 3 or 4 meetings with the entire 7 state principals. And there is a lot of work to be done. There's some great, I believe, cooperation. but yet also some information that we're going to have to put us in a position that we can represent ourselves well, Utah, along with the Upper Basin states, as we work through the renegotiation of the 07 guidelines. So there is work occurring now and progress being made.
Mr. Chair, let me also add that Gene and I, whether Gene likes it or not, we have talked a lot more in the last little bit than we have in a long, long time. And it's been good to get to know Gene again, but we're discussing more and more of all of these issues that we're working on and through. And we're treating this like a bigger and better team with additional resources, additional brain power, whatever you want to call it, in moving forward. Utah's interest in the Colorado River.
Thank you. Other questions from any of the board members? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received for this agenda item?
There were no public comments.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, let's have a board discussion then on this. Is there any clarification or additional information that any of the board members might have or want from Gene or Todd on this? Now, one item of clarification that as I was going through the minutes that were taken from the January meeting, that I thought would be good to have. In our minutes of the January meeting, it said that a motion was moved to ratify Governor Cox's appointment of Gene Shawcroft as the Upper Colorado River Commission as the Utah Commissioner, as well as Todd Adams, Candace Hassenjaeger, and Teresa Wilhelmsen as alternates. My question is, in what I've been hearing today, I think what I heard you say, Gene, was that the governor's appointment was for Todd and Teresa as alternates, and not Candace. And I think I heard Todd say that Candace would be an advisor or something like that. The motion we had in January included Candace as an alternate. What is the clarification on that? It sounds like alternate commissioners. It sounds to me like what I just barely heard was Todd and Teresa.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct. We need to ratify Gene as the Upper Colorado River Commissioner and the lead for the Colorado River discussions. We have two alternate commissioners, Todd Adams and Teresa Wilhelmsen, and two advisors, Candace and myself.
So you're an alternate commissioner and an advisor, both?
Yep.
Okay.
At least that's what the letter says.
He's a very important man, Mr. Chair. Don't let anybody pull wool over your eyes. He's a great one.
He'll wear two hats on this.
That's right.
Incidentally, last Thursday and Friday, I did participate in a webinar on the Colorado River issues. It was put on by CLE, and very interesting, some of the different takes on some of the different things. For day one was from the lower Colorado River, and their position and their ideas of upriver things are completely different than what our interests perhaps are. So this is a very important topic. It's at the forefront of a lot of things right now. So, okay, any other clarifications, board members, that you want to discuss on this? If not, we'll entertain a motion on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy.
Okay, go ahead.
I move the board ratify Governor Cox's appointment of Gene Shawcroft to the Upper Colorado River Commission as the Utah Commissioner, as well as Todd Adams and Teresa Williamson as alternatives, and also Todd Adams and Candace Hassenjaeger as advisors.
Now, question, Randy, before we go any further, as alternate commissioners for Todd and Teresa?
Yes, alternate commissioner for Todd and Teresa, and then Todd and Candace as advisors.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Wayne. I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to taking a vote on this motion, is there any further clarification that the board needs on this motion? Okay, we will take a roll call vote on this motion. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to Gene Shawcroft, I vote no.
Okay, we have a no vote. Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Yes.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tennert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, I vote no.
Okay, no vote. Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Yes.
Okay, we've taken a roll call vote. There were 2 no votes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes votes. Motion carries. So congratulations, Gene, Kyle, Candace. Good luck on your ventures in this Colorado River. It is a very important item on as far as water in Utah right now. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item on our agenda to reconsider from our January meeting is the Governor Cox's appointment of Todd Adams to the Bear River Commission. And so looking at the minutes on that, that was just ratification to the Bear River Commission. Okay, so Director Adams, would you like to just review for us a little bit the Governor Cox's appointment letter and background on that?
Yeah, and when I took this position, I don't know, a year or so ago, a little more than a year ago, I was recommended for being the Bear River Commissioner. We just wanted to make sure when we re-ratified or ratified Gene as the Upper Colorado Commissioner that it was understood and explained that I also would still remain as the Bear River Commissioner. I think Gene didn't want to go further north, so maybe that's what it was all about. I'm not sure. Anyway, we just wanted to make sure that you were okay with me still representing the division, the state, on the Bear River Commission as a commissioner. Charles Holmgren is a Bear River Commissioner, as well as Blair Francis up in the Upper Basin, and so this would just ratify me as a Bear River Commissioner.
Okay, thank you, Director Adams. Board members, any questions for Director Adams on what he's explained on the recommendation to ratify him as the Bear River Commissioner? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this item?
No, there were no comments.
Thank you, Randy. Board, any further discussion before we entertain a motion? Any further discussion on this item? Questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles Holmgren, and I would make a motion to ratify that Todd Adams is the Bear River Commissioner for the state of Utah. That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second on this motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Lemon. I would second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Charles, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion or clarification any board members have on this motion? Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the roll call vote has been unanimous, all voting in favor of the motion. Congratulations, Director Commissioner Adams. We wish you good speed on that project as well. The Bear River is an important component of our state's water also.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next item on our agenda, we will be going, and this again, reconsidering January action items. We will first be going into feasibility reports. The first project is project RE443, Sunrise and Bench Creek Irrigation Company. It's in Wasatch County. And Shalane, if you could give us a short review of what was presented in the January board meeting on this, it would be appreciated.
Certainly. You may recall Russell presented the Sunrise and Bench Creek Irrigation Company project to replace some deteriorating corrugated metal pipe with approximately 7,800 feet of PVC pipe and an inlet structure, as shown here on the map. They have been awarded a WaterSmart grant in the amount of $538,000. Staff recommends that the board authorize 47.6% of the project cost up to $580,000 and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 25 years with annual payments of approximately $23,200. And that's staff's report.
Thank you, Shalane. Is anyone here from the Sunrise and Bench Irrigation Company?
Mr. Chairman.
No. Oh, go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
This is Brian Dieter. I'm here for another project. I tried to reach out to Wade Klingler, but I don't think he was notified about this meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. We did receive questions and we had comment and input from those that were there in our January meeting. So we really don't need them. We're just going to invite them if they had anything in addition. But I think we've got what we need. Thank you, Brian. Okay, board members, any questions for Shalane on this? Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this?
No.
Okay, board members, anything before we entertain a motion that you'd like to ask Shalane or Brian on this? Okay, we'll entertain a motion on this project.
Mr. Chairman, this is Wayne. I move the board authorize 47.6% of the project cost up to $580,000 and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 25 years with annual payments of approximately $23,200.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Lemon. I would second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to taking a vote, is there any further discussion or clarification any of the board members would like to have on this motion? Doesn't sound like there are any, so we'll have a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Yes.
Okay, we've taken a roll call vote. The voting has been unanimous. So this has been approved for Sunrise and Bench Creek Irrigation Company. Thank you. Next item on the agenda would be special items. And again, this is a project from January on reconsidering. The first project under special items is RC059 project. It's Moon Lake Water Users Association requesting additional funds. It's in Duchesne County. And Shailene, would you please give a little refresher on what was presented in the January meeting regarding this project?
Yes, thanks, Blaine. Moon Lake was here requesting additional funds to complete their dam safety upgrade of Twin Pots Dam. The upgrade has actually been finished, and they are just asking for the additional grant funds to pay the board's portion of it. So as shown there, staff recommends the board commit an additional $59,400 and amend the agreement to provide 90% of the project cost up to $266,400 as a dam safety grant. That's staff's report.
Thank you, Shalane. Board members, any questions for Shalane on this? Okay, we did have input from the applicants on this last meeting. Randy Staker, any public comments received on this item?
No comments were received.
Okay, prior to entertaining a motion on this project, board members, any last minute questions you might have on it? Okay, we'll entertain a motion on this project.
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy. I move that the board commit an additional $59,400 and amend the agreement to provide 90% of the project costs up to $266,400 as a dam safety grant.
Okay, thank you, Randy. We have a motion. Do we have a second on Randy's motion?
This is Wayne. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to taking a vote on this motion, does anyone from the board have any further questions or need clarification on the motion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote on this motion. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weaver River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting has been unanimous. This project, this motion has been approved. Thank you. Next item under special items, that was again a reconsider from January action items, and along with this is project RE417. It's Peoa South Bench Canal and Irrigation Company. They requested reauthorization and additional funds. It's in Summit County. We will be discussing more about this project in a later part of the meeting, but for right now, Shalane, could you give us a review, a refresher of what was presented at the board meeting in January?
Yes, as you may recall, in January, Jaqueline presented this. The Peoa South Bench has been working on two projects at the same time and wanted to consolidate them and bring them to the board for additional funds so that they were able to work on both of these projects, to include not just the replacing canal with pressurized pipe, but also including the laterals as part of the project. So that added quite a bit of cost and work. And so staff recommends that the board reauthorize the project to provide 43.2% of the project cost up to $1,660,000 and amend the purchase agreement to state that the board will provide $1 million to be returned at 0% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $33,000. And in addition, the board commits $660,000 from the C&D fund to be returned at 0.1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $22,400.
Thank you, Shalane. Appreciate that report. We did hear from the company in the January meeting. As I mentioned before, we're going to hear from them later in this meeting, later on the agenda. But for now, board members, any questions that you'd like to ask Shalane on this motion that was acted on in the January meeting? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this?
There were no public comments.
Thank you, Randy. Prior to entertaining a motion on this item, board members, do you have any further questions for Shalane on this? Okay, we will entertain a motion on this then.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle Stevens, and I will make a motion relative to the discussions that were had based on the last meeting in January. And we lost, Shalane, you pulled off the motion wording. Okay, I have it in the in the minutes of the meeting, even though we didn't act on those, and I hope it's the same. My motion is that the board reauthorize the project to provide 43.2% of the project cost up to $1,660,000 and amend the purchase agreement to state that the board will provide $1 million to be returned at 0% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $33,000. And in addition, the board commit $660,000 from the C&D fund to be returned at 0.1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $22,400. And that's my motion.
Okay, and that motion is identical to what just got put back on the screen. Thank you, Kyle. We have a motion. Do we have a second on this motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question before we get the second. This is Charles.
Okay.
In my book from January, it defines that it be returned at 0% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $33,300.
The minutes that were taken in our minutes, it says straight out of the minutes that we haven't approved, it says $33,000, not $33,300. So
Okay.
It has it even.
I'm just wondering why it's different in my book, but
It has the approximate in front of it, so it could be approximately 33 to 33.5. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's approximate.
okay.
Yeah. Good question, Charles. Okay. So we do have the motion, and the motion is as it shows up on the screen and in the minutes, the $33,000, approximately $33,000. We have that motion. Kyle made the motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Lemon. I would second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Prior to voting on the motion, board, any board members have any further questions or need further clarification on the motion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The voting has been unanimous in favor of approving this motion, so the project passes. Thank you. Next item under special items, and again, it's a reconsider the January action items. It's project RE429, Cove Waterworks Company. They were requesting additional funds. It is in Cache County. Shalane, would you please give us a little review of this project?
Yes, and I'm sorry for the presentation disappearing. All of a sudden I was disconnected. So I'm sorry about that.
Kyle was
panicked
for a second.
Yeah, sorry about that. Cove came asking for additional funds as well. Some changes to the design to accommodate not putting things in the middle of farmers' fields increased the cost. And So staff recommended that the board commit an additional $63,700 and amend the purchase agreement to state that the board will provide 85% of the project cost up to $276,200, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $9,200. And that's staff's report.
Thank you, Shalane. And representatives from Cove Waterworks Company were at the board meeting in January and did have input on that. Board members, do you have any questions for Shalane on this at this time? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this?
No public comments.
Thank you, Randy. Prior to entertaining a motion on this, board members, again, do you have any questions or discussion on this project? Okay, we'll entertain a motion on this project then.
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles Holmgren. I will make a motion that the board commit an additional $63,700 and amend the purchase agreement to state the board will provide 85% of the project cost up to $276,200, and that the project be purchased at 0% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $9,200.
Thank you, Charles. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle Stevens. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Prior to taking a vote on this motion, does anyone from the board need clarification or want to further discuss this motion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weaver River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting has been unanimous by roll call vote. This project passes. Thanks for your help updating us on this, Shalane. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, and now we will go into new action items. The first new action item is a feasibility report. It's for project RE445. It's Vail Culinary Water Association. It's in Washington County. And if we could, and Tom Cox from the staff is the project manager. If we could have, once again, those who are here representing Vail Culinary Water Association, identify yourself prior to, then we'll invite Tom to give a presentation on this.
I'm Slade Hughes from Vail Culinary Water Association. I'm the manager here. We have Thad Segmiller with us, who is on our water system and our legal counsel, and also the president of the Culinary Water Association, John Levitt, here with us.
Okay, so we've got John, Slade, and Thad. Anyone else, or is that it?
That's everybody that I've seen on the list so far there.
Okay, thank you. Tom, could you give us staff presentation on this project now then, please?
Sure. This is Tom Cox, and the Vail Culinary Water Association provides water to about 332 connections in the unincorporated area of Vail, north of St. George. And there's an additional 100 water connections that they have water shares for, but homes are not built. It obtains water from springs and a well, and they have 4 water tanks, the capacity of about 1 million gallons. 2 of the water tanks are deteriorating and are in need of replacement. If you look on the map, you can see the inset in the upper right-hand corner. There's 120,000 gallon water tank. That's the white one. And then a 50,000 gallon tank. That's the green one there. Shalane, do you want to change the slide? So that's the green one. You can tell that you can see that it's resting and has seen better days. Do you want to change the slide? And this is the steel metal one, the white one you saw from the inset. You can see that there are rust spots, and change the slide. And if you look real close in the middle, just under the W there, you can see water squirting out of the joints in a couple places. So it is leaking in several places. And we'll change the slides, Shalane. There's another leak at the bottom that's squirting out. So it's time that those tanks need to be replaced. So it's proposed that those two tanks will be replaced by a single buried concrete tank. And here's a picture of the proposed location. It's about 550 feet north of the existing steel tanks. So the proposed water tank is going to be 500,000 gallons or larger, depending on what the final decision is. And the project benefit will replace the two old tanks. It will provide adequate fire suppression storage. It'll provide storage for the growth in the area, and it'll simplify the operation. To change the slides, Shane. So the cost estimate of the project has been set at about $1,140,000, and it's proposed that the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $969,000, that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of about $37,600. And that's staff's report.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Representatives from Vail, John, Slade, Thad, do you have anything that you would like to add in addition to what Tom has said?
I just like to say you can kind of see our tanks in pretty bad shape there. We're just trying to figure out how to afford to be able to replace that and keep operation here. And appreciate you guys considering this.
Okay, I neglected to remind, could you identify yourself as each of you come on?
Slade Hughes.
Okay, Slade. Thank you, Slade. Okay, any other comments from either John or Thad regarding this project?
This is John Levitt, and Tom did an awesome job of covering that for us. My only question was the tank sizing, and he covered that, so I appreciate the consideration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board members, do you have any questions for either Tom or John or Slade or Thad that you would like to ask regarding this project?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. I just had a question relative to the picture that was put up that showed the location of the new tank. It appeared to be that it was going to be in a wash area. And if we did get rain again, when we do get rain again, let me paraphrase that, does that present a problem, or was that an accurate picture of where the location of the tank is to be located?
How would you respond to that? Someone from Vail or Tom?
This is Slade Hughes. Sorry, this is Slade Hughes. That picture was showing a old location that was previously excavated when they built the highway. That's not a wash area in the picture. It's excavated where they use that material to build the highway over there. So that's the reason we kind of chose that location. Is it's just previously excavated location.
Okay, thank you.
And I may add, this is Tom, I may add that this is on BLM property, and it's felt that if they put a buried tank excavated area, there would be no impact that they would need to worry about with the BLM. And the tank will be buried most of the way, so it won't be visible from outside the area. So that was another reason they chose that site.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Look like Charles, you might have had a question.
Mr. Chairman and Tom, in the briefing book, it indicates there was another tank farther west than the existing tank or the proposed tank on the briefing book map. I just wondered if that was an error or if there was something else up there northwest.
They have 4 tanks on the system. So the one you can see on to the west, and then there's then the 2 that are going to be replaced. That's the green square in the middle, and then there's a 4th one that's up off the map to the upper right, and that's close to where their springs are. So yeah, those tank locations are correct.
Thank you.
So there's 4 tanks. They're proposing to replace 2 of them, it sounds like. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, it is. And the 2 are adjacent to each other.
Okay. Okay, any other questions, board members, for Tom or the VAO folks? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this project?
There were no public comments.
Okay, thank you. Prior to entertaining a motion on this project, board members, do you have any further clarification or additional information that you'd like to ask from the sponsors or from staff? Okay, we'll entertain a motion then on this project.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim Lemon. I would make the motion that the board authorize 85% of the project cost up to $969,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $37,600.
Thank you, Jim. We have a motion. Do we have a second on this motion?
This is Norman. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to taking a vote, is there any further discussion or clarification regarding this motion that the board might have? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote on this motion. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting by roll call has been unanimous. This project is approved. Congratulations, John and Slade and Thad, and good luck with your project.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda goes into the category of committal of funds. And the first project under that is project number RC031. It's the DMAD company. It's a dam safety project. It is in Millard County. And I, at this time, need to recluse myself from the discussion and from the vote. I am a shareholder in each of those 4 companies. The DMAD consists of 4 companies. I am a shareholder in each of those companies and a director in one of those companies. And so we're going to have the assistant director is not the name, chair, the vice chair. Vice chair. Yeah, my tongue's tied. The vice chair, Kyle Stevens, if you will take over this from here for this project, please, Kyle.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And due to the fact that Mr. Ibsen has recused himself from participating in the discussion because of a potential conflict of interest, we'll proceed ahead with that process in place. So first of all, we welcome the applicants from DMAD here with us. I know we went through an introduction earlier as a part of the start of the meeting, but we would ask you to do that one more time. Then we'll have Tom Cox introduce the project. But first of all, if the applicants that are present, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is Andy Nickel. I'm with the DMAD companies. I have Thane Clark here from Bowen and Collins, Jerry Scheme with Deseret Irrigation, Mark Peterson with Deseret Irrigation, Troy Davis with Delta Canal Company, Jared Smith with Delta Canal Company, and Chris Bunker with Melville Irrigation, and Paul McCollum with Abraham Irrigation. And John Howe with Bowen and Collins is also here.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and have Tom Cox introduce the project, and then we'll come back to you after his presentation for additional comments. So we'll go to that point. So Tom?
The DMAD dam, as you can see on the map, is located about 6 miles northeast of Delta. The Delta is in the lower left corner, and the dam is in the square in the center on the right. And there's an inset just in the left corner, upper left-hand corner, that shows the dam is kind of a V shape. The main dam is towards the left. The spillway is in the upper part. Shane, do you want to change the slide? This is a picture of the spillway in the dam. The dam is owned and operated by the DMAD company, which is made up of the Delta, Melville, Abraham, and Deseret Irrigation Canal companies. It was constructed in 1909 and enlarged to its current configuration in 1959. That was with financial assistance from the board, which has been paid off. It's about 37 feet high, 1,200 feet long, and has a storage capacity of about 11,000 acre feet. Each of the companies involved in DMAD is entitled to a different amount of reservoir water, and it pays for its proportionate share of its upkeep. In 1983, in the spring runoff, the spillway failed, and a replacement spillway was designed by Water Resources staff and constructed at a cost of just over $1.1 million. And the board provided 100% of the project cost in the form of a loan, which has been completely returned by the applicant. The dam is a high hazard dam because of its location above populated areas, and the phase 1 of the dam safety upgrade project was completed in 2008, which costed nearly $3.6 million. The board provided a dam safety grant for 95% of that cost, and the applicant covered its entire 5% cost with its own funds. The project included building a stability berm and installing tow drains on the main embankment dam, but the spillway issues were not addressed at that time. During the recent design process, it was determined that the spillway was built on soils that could liquefy in the event of an earthquake, and also a scour hole. Shane, do you want to change the slide? Oh, there you go. There's a scour hole you can see has developed below the spillway because of the way it was built and some other issues, and that's also a stability concern for the spillway. In 2019, field tests were performed to try to find a way to stabilize the existing structure. And the tests indicated that it would be difficult and very costly to stabilize the spillway. And taking into account some of the other issues related to it, it was determined that it would be more economical to replace the spillway. It should be noted that saving the structure would have allowed for a much smaller, less expensive, separate emergency spillway to be built in the vicinity to pass the required flows for. And this would be considered the phase 2 of the upgrade project. So the project includes removing and replacing the existing spillway and drains, filling the scour hole with engineered fill, and placing appropriately sized riprap. Bids have been opened, and is anticipated that construction will start in a month or so and be finished by November of 2022. It should also be noted that within the next year or two, phase 2 of the Dam Safety Minimum Standards Upgrade Project, a severe bridge dam, which is located upstream of the DMAD dam, and it's currently estimated to cost around $14 million, will also be constructed. The 4 companies in DMAD plus one additional company will be responsible to come up with the local cost share on that dam also. As you can see, the completed phase 2 cost sharing. The board provided almost $3.4 million. The dam owner came up with $177,000. The cost share was 95% to 5%. And it's proposed that the cost sharing on the phase 2 project, it would be 90% of the cost, up to $13,275,000 as a dam safety grant, and 10% of the project cost, up to $1,475,000 in the form of a loan that will become from the Conservation and Development Fund. And it's proposed that it will be returned at 0.1% interest over 10 years with annual payments of approximately $148,400. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that's staff's report.
Thank you, Tom. Applicants, is there anything else that you would like to add to the discussion that was presented by Mr. Cox?
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is Andy Nickel with DMAD. Like Tom said, the spillway washed out in 1983. We had a really good water year, one which we'd probably like to see come, maybe not that much, but we'd like to see a little more water coming. Tom, is there a chance that you could pull up that slide that you had of the spillway where you can see the baffle blocks? No, the first one you had up. One of the things that was found is, as it was said, the state designed the spillway. Within 1 year of the state designing the spillway, you can see there along the top, where we had to already go in and cut off the top baffle blocks because the hydraulics of the spillway were incorrectly designed. It wasn't, so we've been modifying and paying for this dam since within 1 year of it being installed. We paid for this. We did take out a loan for roughly $1.1 million in 1984 to pay for the dam. We paid that off. The final payment was due in 2004. Within 1 year, we were informed we needed to start phase 1 of the rehabilitation of DMAD. In turn, we got with Bowen and Collins, hired our engineer, and I'm going to turn the time over to Thane to talk you through kind of what we found through the phases.
So this is just to give you a little perspective. So after phase 1, we then focused on the spillway and studies along the spillway, looking at its stability and its hydraulics. It was quickly identified that the spillway wasn't able to pass the the normal flows that they originally thought. And that can be noted by the scour hole. Typically, you don't have a scour hole downstream of a spillway. So as we investigated, we looked at ways of saving the spillway to stabilize it because there were liquefaction issues during a seismic event. There are ways to stabilize the spillway. They are expensive, but when you add on top the fact that the spillway cannot safely pass large flows, it kind of led us to the option of demolishing this spillway. And you'll notice that the quality of the concrete, the condition of the concrete, we noted has held up very well. The spillway is not that old. And so what's happened is that this new project, this proposed project, is tearing out the existing spillway and replacing it with a fairly large spillway. If we were able to preserve and stabilize this existing spillway, if it were designed properly in 1984, the company and the state would be building an adjacent spillway for half the cost. And so there is a concern on the DMAD company's part that they've been paying for a spillway for over 40 years, and now because of the cost of this one, they will continue to be paying for the spillway, and we're not able to get any use out of that old spillway. So I'll let Andy kind of talk over a little bit about payments and finance.
Thank you. As Thane mentioned, from our perspective, we installed the spillway that was designed and that the state designed for us. We've been paying on it now. We've paid 100% of the original cost of the spillway. We've been paying on it now for coming up on 40 years. Had it been properly designed and installed, we would be installing a much smaller spillway. We've looked at many other options to try to, after the phase 2, we looked at many other options to try to help us with funding. We looked into some NRCS grants to try to help the burden on our shareholders, and we just didn't have the time required to do the environmental impact studies and some things that the NRCS required to get some of their funding. It's our opinion of the DMAD companies that we do believe that this is a special circumstance. We believe that that we're having to tear out a structure that the concrete is in really good condition for being poured in 1984. We believe that we're not only did we pay to install it 100%, now we're having to pay to tear it out, fix the problems that were not accounted for in the design in 1984. And we believe it's a special circumstance that we're not asking and pleading poverty on this. We do have many other projects coming up. I mean, it's been noted we have Severe Bridge coming up within the next year or two. We've got a lot of crumbling infrastructure down here. A lot of our canals, we're looking at having to go through and reline those. All of these projects will be coming before the board in the next couple of years to ask for funding. We are just asking that perhaps on this special circumstance that the state would be willing to help cover the burden of replacing a structure that today is still standing, it's still functioning, but due to the improper design, we're forced to remove. So we're asking for 95% funding with 5% covered by us that we will cover out of our own funds without taking out a loan, which will hopefully free up funding for other projects in the past, as we will not be drawing out the payback on this loan. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Before I go to the board for comments and discussion, I'll ask if there have been any public comments submitted on this application request.
There have been no public comments.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Okay, so we'll now open it back up for discussion from board members. Are there any comments, questions?
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Charles Holmgren.
Yes, go ahead.
The folks at DMAD, I get the feeling you feel like you're buying a dead horse or you've bought a dead horse. We're pretty heavily constrained by high demands in dam rehabilitation throughout the state. In the proposed cost-sharing agreement, we're talking about 10% loan with a payback over 10 years. Would extending the payback period be of any value to you?
I believe that it possibly would if that is the decision of the board. I think if we're looking at 10% funding with the upcoming project of Severe Bridge, I think we would be looking at 20 years if we could extend the payback period.
Okay, any other questions? So what you're saying then, and excuse me for forgetting your name, if it was to go to a 20-year payment on a still a 90-10 split, then we had some discussion in our earlier meeting that would put the payback at approximately $74,600. So just for clarification purposes on that. Any other comments or questions from board members? Or did you want to respond to that?
Yes, Andy Nickel with DMAD. Yeah, we would look at the 20% and for 20 years, sorry.
Yeah, 10% for 20.
Yes. And in response to Mr. Holmgren, we do feel like we are buying a dead horse. We feel like this has been just an ongoing payment for us. We feel like we've done everything that's been asked of us in the past. We feel like we paid 100% of it exactly how the state, designed it. We feel that it was not designed properly. To be honest with you, we just want it to end. We're tired of paying for DMAD spillway. For my entire life, we've been paying for DMAD spillway. We would just like to see this not be a line item on our budget anymore. We would like to be over and done with it if we could and move on to other projects that we have in our system. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments from members of the board? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Randy. I can understand and feel some of your frustration, but just to put in context, regardless of who might have designed this spillway structure, sometimes things aren't done quite the way we think they should be. It's not uncommon for engineering to not end up doing what we thought it was going to do. Regretfully, that's part of the risks you take anytime you engineer a project, and we can understand your concerns, but on the same hand, we still have to try to find a way to reach the needs of many dams throughout the state. And so anyway, just wanted you to at least have that perspective as well.
Thank you, Randy. Any other board members have any comments or questions? If not, then we're ready to entertain a motion. If someone is willing to make a motion,
Mr. Vice Chairman, this is Jim Lemon.
go ahead.
I would recommend that that we go as staff recommends, that the board commit 90% of the project cost up to $13,275,000 as a dam safety grant, and 10% of the project cost up to $1,475,000 as a loan from the C&D fund to be returned at 0.1% interest over 10 years with annual payments of approximately $148,400.
Okay,
I'd
that is
sec-
in the context of a motion rather than a recommendation. Is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy. I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. We'll go through a roll call vote at this point then. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye with the caveat that I think we could have gone 20 years.
Okay, Juliet Tennert, Salt Lake.
Aye.
Randy Crozier, Green River.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would recommend that we amend the motion to make the payment 20 years and the repayment for, what was it, 74,000, whatever it was. I think that would be something that we could consider that would help their situation. So that would be my recommendation.
Someone's going to have to help me out here with the Roberts Rules of Order, where we're in the middle of a standing motion. Can we accept that at this point, or do we need to continue voting and then reconsider?
Kyle, this is Todd. Let me get Marty on here. I'm not sure whether we can take a substitute motion right now. Marty, can you help us?
Yeah, I am not an expert on Robert's Rules of Order, but it would seem that with the motion out, you've got to either handle that, unless it's an amendment to that motion, which has to be agreed to by the others. But this is a substitute motion.
No, that would
No, we're voting on the original motion.
Okay.
Yeah, but
he's making a recommendation to
but
change
my
the
comment was to amend the original motion. So
I think the protocol is you vote to whether you want to consider the amended motion at all. And then if you do, then you have to go back and vote on the other first. But again, this is not an area I've got a lot of background in, is reviewing Robert's Rules of Order. So
Marty, if Wayne has a substitute motion to go, just like Jim said, except from 10 years to 20 years, then can we go to that substitute motion, or do you have to finish voting on the underlying motion first?
no, I think you have to vote on the substitute motion, and if that passes, then that takes care of the
precedence.
motion.
Okay. All right.
I think that's correct. If a substitute would have been placed before we started voting on the original motion, we could have voted on the substitute and dispensed with it. And if it passed, then the original motion just dies. But we're in the middle of voting on the original motion. We can go ahead and finish voting on it, and then someone can request to reconsider the original motion and then propose a substitute at that point.
Kyle, this is Randy. I believe you're right.
Okay. All right. We'll just.
So, Mr. Vice Chair, let's vote on this motion and then see if someone would like to have a substitute motion.
Correct. Okay. So we'll finish this. Then Upper Colorado, Norm Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado, James Lemon.
Aye.
That concludes the voting. The voting is in unanimous. Is there someone who wants to make a motion to reconsider?
I would like to make a motion to reconsider. This is Wayne.
And would you state that motion?
Yeah, I would, I would recommend that the board commit 90% of the project cost up to $13,275,000 as a dam safety grant, and 10% of the project cost up to $1,475,000 as a loan from the C&D fund to be returned at 0.1% interest over 20 years with annual payments of approximately $74,000 and change.
Okay, that is the motion to reconsider the previous action. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would second the motion, but I think Wayne needs to state that he makes a motion and not recommend.
I do make the motion. It's not a recommendation. I make the motion to do that.
I will second the motion.
Okay, the motion stands. We'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tennert.
Respectfully, no.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
No.
Upper Colorado, Norm Johnson.
I vote no.
Lower Colorado, James Lemon.
No.
Okay, there were 2 in favor. I wasn't keeping track as I was going through.
Was two in favor. That would be Charles and Wayne, and we had 3 no votes. Juliet, Randy, Norm, and Jim. So if the motion would fail.
So the substitute or amended motion fails. So we go back to the original motion, which was that the board commit 90% of the project cost up to $13,275,000 as a dam safety grant, and 10% of the project cost up to $1,475,000 as a loan from the C&D fund to be returned at 0.1% interest over 10 years with annual payments of approximately $148,400.
And Mr. Vice Chair, that motion passed 7-0.
Correct. And so that is the motion. Thank you, DMAD, for being here, and we respectfully respect your comments, and but that's the action of the board, and we'll move forward at this point.
Andy Nickel, thank you, Vice Chair and the board. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Well, I'll turn the time back to then Mr. Ripson as the chairman.
Okay. Next item on the agenda under committal of funds is project RE 373, Ashley Irrigation Company. It's in Uintah County, and Ashley Irrigation Company, again, if anyone's here from there, if you could please identify yourself. I think you did earlier, but if you could do it again, please.
I'm Bill Cook. I'm the president of the Ashley Upper Canal.
Kurt Smeon, president of the Highline Canal.
It's a combined project that we have done together.
Okay.
Troy Osler from Civco Engineering. And I'm William Merkley with the Uintah Water Conservancy District.
Okay. Welcome, William, Troy, Billy, and Kurt. We welcome you with us.
Thank you.
Tom, let's see. It looks like Ben Marett is the project manager for this particular project. So, Ben, could you give us a presentation on this project, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Ashley Upper Irrigation Company is sponsoring a project in combination with the Highline Canal Company. They're working in conjunction to move forward with this project. The board authorized $5,045,000 to this project back in October 2018. And since that time, the project has been moving forward in design. The project was set back a little bit by some environmental work that needed to be completed, which was done. A new cost estimate is bringing the project to $22,594,000. And at this time, the project is ready for committal. You can see here the outline of the pipe that's going to go down Ashley Valley. I've included here some construction photos. Construction has already begun and began last fall and is expected to continue through spring 2023. Jaqueline, if you could just cycle through those and let everybody see them for a sec. There's not really any specific thing I need to say about any of these photos. But the project, the new total is $22.6 million approximately. There are a number of funding sources that are involved in the project. And they are ready for committal at this time. And that is staff support.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Ash, from the sponsor, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, William or Troy or Billy or Kurt?
No, I don't think so. He did a really good job of presenting. The High Line is pretty much completed portion of it. We'll be able to actually use some of it this summer. So, rest of it.
Okay, board members, any questions that you'd like to ask Ben or any from the sponsors, William, Troy, Billy, or Kurt?
Chairman Ibsen, I suppose I should say that staff recommends that the board commit 29.6% of the project cost, up to $6,686,000, and the project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $259,100.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, a question that came up earlier, and maybe Ben, you can answer it, or maybe the Ashley folks could, is there was notice that the Utah Transportation Special Service District amount went from $1 million down to $750,000. Can you explain what happened there? What's going on?
Yeah, I can take that one with this. What was committed by the Uinta Transportation Special Service District, $1 million, was for the High Line, the Upper Canal, and also the Rock Point Canal. And Rock Point Canal has been completed, and they utilized their $250,000 out of the $1 million, which wasn't initially anticipated that they would do that, but that's where that reduction came from.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the sponsors from the board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy. I might just make a comment that this is a very complicated project. There's a lot of different entities that have been involved in putting this together. As you can see with the funding sources, there's been a lot of effort put forward to make this project work, and my hat's off to them to have been able to bring this many entities together and work through these issues. And I know Ben spent a lot of time working with them to get through this, and it's a good project. I just want to commend them on coming together and making this project happen.
Thank you, Randy. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this?
There were no public comments.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, prior to entertaining a motion on this project, anything come to mind, any board members that you'd need clarification on or more information? Okay, we'll entertain a motion on this project then.
Mr. Chairman, this is Randy. I move that the board commit 29.6% of the project costs up to $6,686,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $259,100.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second on this motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to voting on this motion, does anyone from the board need any clarification or have any questions regarding this motion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote then. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chair, I vote aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tennert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting has been unanimous approving this project. Congratulations, William, Troy, Billy, and Kurt, and good luck with your project.
Thank you. Appreciate your help.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a special item. It's project RE417. It's Peoa South Bench Canal and Irrigation Company. It is in Summit County, and this project was discussed earlier in the agenda. It was on the agenda during the January meeting. We welcome those who are here representing Peoa South Bench Canal and Irrigation Company. Would you please identify yourselves, those of you who are here from representing?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Sam Turpin. I'm the Secretary Treasurer. I think we've got David Lake, who's the president, also on. First of all, on behalf of the board and our shareholders.
Wait, just 1 second here. Okay, I believe, is Brian Dieter still on, Sam?
I am still. Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so we've got the three of you. Now, the normal protocol is that first we have a report from staff, and then after that we invite you as the sponsor of the project to come on. So we'll get to you in just a minute, Sam. Shalane, do you have anything from staff that you'd like to present on this project?
Not really at this time, since we presented earlier. You've seen staff's recommendation. You understand the change in the scope of the project. So at this point, it's really just an applicant request for different term.
Okay.
So I'll turn the time to Sam.
Okay, Sam, now your turn.
All right, thank you, Shalane. So, Mr. Chair and members of the board, on behalf of our board and our shareholders, we'd like to thank you for your efforts in assisting the Peoa South Bench Company to complete our pressurized system. Obviously, this is a big thinking project, and none of it would be possible without your assistance and commitment to water conservation. As our project has grown over the past year to become what it is, the cost has gone up quite a bit as well. And this was actually a special request that we were supposed to take part in back in January that we neglected to do. But as the cost has grown, the Peoa South Bench Canal and Irrigation Company would like to make a special request to the board to increase the non-grant loan percentage from 85% to 90%. This would have a very substantial impact on the immediate cash flow needs of our company and also, moreover, the individual shareholders for this year. Just to kind of give you an idea of the impact it would have, the loan percentage, which has recently been approved at 43.2%, would increase to approximately 45.7%. That's an additional 2.5% we're requesting, which is, in terms of dollar amount, it's an additional estimate, $98,000 commitment. The impact of that $98,000 is approximately this year out of pocket assessment to the shareholders, $230 per share. We have many shareholders that have 30, 40, 50 shares. And so it could have an impact of, ranging between obviously $6,000 upwards of $12,000 and $13,000 additional assessment for 2021. Whereas the additional loan committal would allow us the funds to complete the project, number one, and number two, would have an impact of $7.65 over 30 years per share within our company. So the impact is quite substantial, and I appreciate your time and consideration and everything you've done to help us complete our project thus far.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Anyone else from the project sponsor like to have any input or say anything else on this? Okay, board members, do you have any questions for the sponsor, for either Dave or Sam or Brian?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. I don't necessarily have any questions, maybe just a comment. And that is, Sam reached out to me the afternoon of the January 28th board meeting, or the next day, recognizing that they perhaps missed an opportunity to have further discussion relative to what he has just discussed and presented. I shared with them that we had that discussion in our earlier briefing meeting and was prepared to discuss it in the board meeting, but since it did not come up, it was not discussed. So I appreciate their efforts. I appreciate staff's efforts in working with this particular project and bringing it back before us for further consideration. As I indicated in my earlier comments, had the opportunity to go up and visit the area with Jaqueline when the site review was being conducted. I think that was probably back in 2018, and it is an area that's experiencing some growth and impacts that way, but at the same time, it's a very needed and worthwhile project. I guess I do have one question I would put to Sam, and that is, you indicated, my question is, how many total shareholders are there in that company? Because I think it's a relatively small company, but how many shareholders are there?
It seems to be changing daily, but it's approximately 30.
So just from that standpoint, I think we can have a better sense and understanding of what Sam has projected there, of what the individual, financial impact might be on an individual shareholder. So anyway, I'll just offer those comments at this point.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Randy.
I just had a question. So how does it work out, the share per acre in your company?
It fluctuates. Let's see. We have 1 share of water per 2 acres. So
I appreciate that.
Just one other comment. David Lake, the president. We have 428 shares for 880 acres. And so those are split up between about approximately 30 shareholders. And it is 2 acres per share.
Okay.
Appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this?
No, there were no public comments.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Board members, prior to entertaining a motion, any questions or clarifications that you'd like to have? Okay, entertain a motion. It sounds like the project sponsor has requested a change of terms on things and to reauthorize it with different terms than what was approved. Do we have a motion along those lines?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle Stevens. I'll make that motion. And that is to reauthorize the project to provide 45.8% of the project cost up to $1,758,000 and amend the purchase agreement to state the board will provide $1 million to be returned at 0% over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $33,300, and in addition provide $758,000 from the C&D fund to be returned at 0.1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of approximately $25,700. And that would be my motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
This is Norman. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to taking a vote on the motion, any clarification or discussion from the board prior to taking a vote on it? Okay, we'll vote on the motion then by roll call. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
I vote aye.
Weaver River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting by roll call has been unanimous, so it passes with in the terms of the motion. Congratulations, Dave, Sam, and Brian. Good luck on your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, next on the agenda, it's noted that we did receive a new application. It's project RE446. It's from Provo River Water Users Association. It is a new application. There will be no action taken on it at this meeting, but collect information, and down the road we'll be hearing on this application. Next item on the agenda is a planning report. It's on the joint Bear River planning model by Jake. And so Jake, if you can give us this information on the planning report, please.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen. So, let's see. Just want you all to know you can't see. I'm not wearing any green, but I've got my lucky green stone from Ireland in my pocket.
We can't pinch you?
No, I knew no one would be able to pinch me anyhow, but you know, my Irish ancestors are looking down on me. All right, so can you see the screen? Great. Okay. So I want to thank Todd Candace and Craig for giving me the opportunity to work on this project. I've really enjoyed it. I've been able to get out into the Bear River watershed and meet with Conley Baldwin and learn. I just learned a ton about the Bear River and got to know some of the water users and other people in the Bear River Basin, and I've really enjoyed it. And so I also thank Todd Stonley for asking me to give the planning report this month to show you all what's happened. So in December 2020, we published a report titled Impacts on Bear Lake Storage under Alternative High Runoff Management Operations. So this was published on the division's website and is available there. Our PIO worked with the public information officers at the other states and with PacifiCorp to make a press release, and that's been picked up by several newspapers. So news has been made it out there in the Bear River Basin as well as other areas in the state. And we have given presentations of the model development, the results of the model, and the findings from the study to various stakeholders and interest groups in the basin. One of those presentations is available on the division YouTube website. And that presentation contains more detailed presentation of the results than I'm going to give here. So this study was initiated after the Idaho Water Resource Board and Utah Division of Water Resources filed two joint water right applications, one in Idaho and one in Utah, back in March 2018 to store water and for storage and natural flow in Bear Lake. After those applications, the executives from the three states and PacifiCorp got together and decided that they wanted to commission a study before they proceeded. And so they got some modeling experts, engineers, and hydrologists together. So those from Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, PacifiCorp, we all worked together collaboratively on this project. One of the main outcomes of the project was the development of a simulation model that represents the lower division, including Bear Lake. It has detailed, it's able to replicate detailed operations of Bear Lake, and the model was developed as a tool to help us answer the study questions. The main purpose of the study is to quantify the volume of additional water that could have been stored in Bear Lake between the years 1980 to 2018. If flood control operations had changed and if downstream flow constraints were somewhat relaxed. Just to give you an idea of how this study proceeded from the time that the executives commissioned the modeling group in October 2018, we really got going in earnest by April 2019. So those 8 months or so took in terms of planning the study and getting everything all together and getting the finances ready. And then the modeling group moved pretty quickly. We were able to develop the model that represented the historic baseline conditions by January 2020. And so less than a year. And then we developed the scenarios. The pandemic hit, things kind of slowed down, but we got the study published last December, like I said. And just as a reminder of what a model is, I need to do this every once in a while, so I figure others may. You can see on the left-hand side there a familiar map of the Bear River Basin. Many of you are familiar with, especially Charles. And then on the right-hand side is a diagram of the model. And I know you can't read it. It's okay. You don't need to. The point is just that the model is a simplified form of what you see on the left-hand side. The model is designed by us, so if something's not included if we don't include something in the model, it won't be included. And the model clearly isn't the same as the natural world. It's a simplified version, but it can be very helpful because we can do things in the model that would be impossible or impractical in the real world. So in the model, we can develop scenarios and do things that can be helpful for planning. The questions we asked in this study were, how often could Bear Lake have stored additional water? If it could have stored any, what's the volume that storage would have been? If more water was stored, how would that impact flood flows through Gentile Valley in Idaho? How would inflows to Bear Lake from the Bear River have changed? How would upstream storage in Wyoming and Utah have been impacted? And lastly, how would the additional storage in Bear Lake have impacted inflows to Great Salt Lake? So I'll just give you a short summary. I'd, of course, be happy to meet with any of you if you want me to go over the answers to these questions in more detail. The first finding is that there's a significant amount of additional storage would have been available in the years that were wet and then followed by a dry year. So those are typically wet years that enter a dry period for at least one dry year or more. That amounts to 10% of the last 40 years, or there are really 4 main years in which significant storage would have been available. In those 4 years, the amount of storage is an average of 58,000 acre feet. That's 58,000 acre feet for every 1 foot increase in the target elevation of Bear Lake. And really, about 3.5 feet is the maximum that flood control target elevation could increase. What would have been the effects downstream? So what would have been the answers to the other questions? Somewhat difficult to say because those downstream effects depend in a large way on how that additional storage in Bear Lake is used. And since we didn't make any assumptions about new uses or point of use, we had to use some modeling techniques to try to understand this. But in short, more storage would not be possible in Bear Lake unless the conveyance challenges and constraints in Gentile Valley are resolved. There would have been a decrease in the amount of water flowing into Bear Lake from Bear River, which means likely would be less sediment, higher water quality in Bear Lake. But that also means a higher lake level, which can also affect things around Bear Lake. And then lastly, any consumptive use of the additional storage water would result in a decrease in stream flows to Great Salt Lake. So the next phase of study, we have informed the executives from the 3 states and Pacific Corps about the findings from the study and the answers to their questions. And before they want to proceed with the water right applications and other negotiations, they want us to do a couple more things. One is to evaluate how the storage would be impacted due to the uncertainty in forecasts. Pacific Corps relies on stream flow forecasts for flood control operations, and so that's an important component to consider. They also want us to determine the amount of usable storage, whereas we quantified the total amount of storage available in the lake. That doesn't necessarily translate to water that could be delivered or used. And lastly, they want us to put into the model new uses or uses in different points or changes in existing demands and see what impacts those would have on the system. There are a couple of other uses unrelated to these questions about the storage applications for which the model could be used. And these are some recommendations from the modeling group. One is to continue the cooperative development, meaning that engineers from Utah, Wyoming, and Idaho and Pacific Corps should continue working together, sharing the model, updating the model together, and improving it. It's we think it's good for relationships and also good for management in the river basin. It can be used to answer other questions. So if there are, if you want to know about certain impacts or different operations or different structures or demands in the river basin, we could help answer that using the model. We're going to extend the model upstream from Bear Lake all the way to the headwaters so that it includes the central and upper divisions of the river basin. We're going to add detail in Cache Valley, so that includes the Cove River, Logan River, and other tributaries. And after we do that, we'll be able to simulate Bear River development scenarios with this new model. We also recommend continuing to work closely with stakeholders and interest groups, and we're already doing this. We're working with Fish and Wildlife Service, some of the canal companies to better understand the impacts they're concerned with and what some of their problems are that maybe we can help to solve. Other questions, this model, or rather what I mean by this is that the model could be used for operations. So if Pacific Corps wanted to take it, they could adapt it so that it would be a tool useful for operations. And if desired, it could also be modified to be used as a water rights accounting model, whereas presently Utah and Idaho use two different water rights accounting models. And that's all I have for you. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Well, thank you, Jake. Board members, do you have anything for questions for Jake on this, on the modeling and on the bear? Okay, now there's no board action that we need to take on this per se, but Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this item?
No, there were no comments.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Okay,
Mr.
thanks again.
Chairman,
Yes.
this is Charles. I don't have any questions of Jake Sarago, but just to say how much I appreciate the work the division has done and Jacob has done on this study of Bear Lake and the flood plain and how it will impact an awful lot of people. So it's been a very important work from my perspective as a Bear River water user. So thank you, Jake.
Okay, thanks, Charles and Jake. Okay, next item on our agenda, we've got a Bear River development report. So Marisa, if you'll please give us that report.
I will, and I just moved the screen into the wrong spot. Let me get that out of the way. And so I can get I've got a PowerPoint. Did I disappear?
We can see you, but we can't see your PowerPoint.
Yeah, I haven't shared it yet. I don't know what, I just got kicked off. That's what I'm going to say anytime I struggle with technology. Sorry. All righty. Got it. All right, is that showing?
Yep.
Okay. Right, so there's two things today. There is update about the corridor preservation, and then there's also discussion about property maintenance and request of committal of funds. We'll talk first about the corridor preservation and some of the new properties. Sure. Sorry, there's a new puppy in the house. There might be noise in the background. I don't know if you heard that. So this is the property. You can see it here, this empty residential lot. So that was purchased for just over $110,000. That was the appraised value. Surprisingly, they're not leasing it back. There's no lease back on this. You can see the blue line on here. That is the extent of where we would need to get 100 feet of right of way on this empty lot. So it was a total take. And that one is in South Willard. And then the next one was a house. And so this was 6 of an acre, beautiful home, about 2,000 square feet, RV, garage and shed. The appraised value was $575,000, and they are leasing back month to month because they are looking to rebuild. And so those are the two properties on that. I was also going to pull up. We are at about, as far as the spending, there was $5 million that was committed for right-of-way corridor preservation. About just under $2.3 million has been spent. And 700,000 is under contract. There's another about 27,000 that is an offer that's been accepted, but it's been taking a while, so we're not sure how that's going to go. It's a strip of someone's back pasture. And then there's been about $300,000 and a few other offers that, they called interested in selling. We were interested in buying, and but they've decided not to pursue at this time to sell. Again, it is a willing seller, willing buyer situation. Moving on to the committal of funds, because we have those properties, the non-residential properties need to be maintained. And so on this slide, we're seeing, we have talked with Weaver Basin Conservancy District. They're already up in the area. They've got their own properties that they maintain, clean, all the things that need to be done. So they have the crew and they have the equipment to be able to do this. And they are part of the Bear River Development project and the planning and everything that's going into it. One time would be improvement, meaning going right to the property to clean it up. They put about $40,000. Now that was dependent on estimates of tree removal or dumping cleanup, those sorts of things. There are going to be some sites that are in pretty good shape, but are still going to need some fencing, maybe some reseeding, some seeding, maybe some site grading. Not huge amounts of work to be done, but this 40,000 is kind of an average that they thought, for some properties are going to have a lot more, some aren't going to have as much. And then there would be annual maintenance. They estimated that to be about $4,500 per site. That will give us 3 visits annually. Mowing, trimming, reseeding, fence maintenance, pest control. And as many of us know, encroachment dumping issues are always so much fun. Making sure that people haven't moved their fence onto our fence or started building their shed. All the things that a lot of us have heard going on in projects that have caused problems. And so trying to keep track of that as well. I'm going to go to this next and just show you some of these sites. This site is that residential lot that we just purchased. So there needs to be some cleanup and get it graded. I am not sure at this moment if those RVs are encroaching on the property. They may have been from the previous owner. We just barely closed on this. And so that'll be something that has to be looked into as well. But this site wouldn't take as much to clean up. Then we've got this site. It's at the end of a peach farm. it would be east of this, to the left of this dirt road. These trees would be removed, possibly. Part of the other problem is these trees are teetering right on the right-of-way line between what we have purchased and what is UDOT corridor right now, which may eventually change hands. But as you can see, there's a lot of piles here. It's been used for motorcycles and ATVs back here. A lot of dumping has happened back here, either by the previous owner or by others. And so this site in particular will take a lot more work to get it cleaned up, get it seeded, get it fenced to keep from encroachment. And then this is a detention basin that was privately owned in a residential neighborhood. And as you see, it will need work to get cleaned up as well. So these are kind of the different levels that you'll see in some of the work that needs to be done out there. So the committal of funds includes the state of Utah. The contracts are minimum 5 years. This is a 5-year estimation of cost. Between the one-time improvement, the $4,500 per year for 5 years, contract management, general admin and overhead by Weber Basin, we've estimated about $65,000 a site. And if we have about 15 sites sometime in this next 5 years, we've calculated that out to be $975,000 for this 5-year contract. So staff recommends the Board of Water Resources commit $975,000 from the Conservation and Development Fund for a 5-year contract with Weber Basin Water Conservancy District for the maintenance of right-of-way corridor properties for the Bear River Development Project. And if I could add, and I should have added this before, the $5 million that was previously committed was specifically for right-of-way acquisition. And we did discuss it, and we felt like that was right-of-way acquisition. This is the maintenance, and it's separate. And so that is why we're coming to you to ask for this on a separate contract. And that is, from a separate amount of funding. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Marisa. Board members, any questions, discussions on this? Any questions or clarification you'd like to get from Marisa on this?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kyle. Marisa, if you'd go back to the property acquisition slide.
Please?
Yes.
Okay.
In the book that was sent out, the board book, the appraised value, the purchase price was $545.
Yeah.
And here it's represented as $575.
Yeah.
Is that the correct? The $575 is the correct number?
575 is correct, and I apologize for that. There was an initial appraisal of 545,000, and we've had one appraiser pretty consistently that has, between working with UTA and separately, that has been doing this. However, on this particular project, he sent out someone else. It's kind of like a professional engineer signs the document, but sends maybe a junior engineer out on a project. And the owner, who actually works in real estate, felt like things had gotten missed. So we asked the appraiser, who hadn't made it into necessarily inside the house. He'd seen the site, but not been inside. He went back up and he agreed. He saw things inside it's not just an RV garage, it's a shop. And he felt comfortable that yes, the cost should increase. So we did get a supplemental appraisal for $575,000. And I apologize that I missed that. The one other thing in the book, I didn't change the tax ID number. This is the correct tax ID number. In the book, I unfortunately duplicated. So this is the correct tax ID number for this property. This property is in Willard. Thank you for asking that.
Well, thank you for that clarification. And then Mr. Chairman, if I might, I have another couple of questions on the one on the motion where it says commit $975,000. And my question there would be are those fixed costs because you've identified a number of variables in the different types of terrain and property that would need to be maintained and such? And so my question there, I guess, is it a fixed cost of $975,000 or should it be wording up to $975,000 in the event that, the maintenance costs aren't quite that much? Just a question.
Yeah, and this is an estimate based on, a kind of a typical cost, average cost, I guess would be the better word. They have, it won't be $65,000 a site, no matter, from the detention basin being the same as the one with all the tree removal and maintenance. It'll be, they've given a very itemized list of those things that they feel could be done with costs, tree removal, fencing, pest control. And of course, it depends on the size of the parcel as well. There's going to be some other parcels that are going to be bigger. So we'll be invoiced based on those pieces that, the items that are actually getting done. Shalane, maybe you could help out. I mean, is this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, in this case, it's a little different. This will not be a project purchase agreement. This is an actual contract we'll enter into. We can always spend less. The amount that you commit today will just be the maximum that we have access to for this purpose, unless we come back and ask you for more. So yeah, there's no guarantee of what we'll spend, and who knows in 4 years if we're out of money and have to come back again. But at least for contractual purposes, committing $975,000 just says this is what's available for this purpose for the next 5 years. So I think it's fine the way it's written, but
okay,
it can say up to. Either way would be fine. If you commit up to $975,000, we're still going to write the contract for $975,000 and say they cannot go over that. So, okay, but that they will bill us actual costs for that maintenance.
Okay, so I'll just speak to, I'm somewhat familiar with Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. We have some of those same lots throughout Kaysville and Layton area where some of the corridors have already been purchased that they maintain, and they do an excellent job on that. So that's a vote in favor of the work that Weber Basin does. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Kyle. And if I may, and I talked to Scott Paxman, they were actually on, they tried to be on, they were on the briefing meeting. It looks like I know Scott couldn't get on this afternoon, and I believe it looks like Sam has left. They're one of the properties that we talked to, and they wanted an appraisal, and we made an offer, is kind of a warehouse storage area, a very big piece of property, a lot of concrete. And I talked to Scott and I said, they decided not to sell, but I wonder if that's something where you could talk to them. Because we talked about if we purchase that property, that could be a shed for the equipment for Weber Basin. And I said, you could always talk to them and see about renting some space. So, because we currently have the Peach property, the edge of the Peach property, the edge of the Cherry Farm, which is right next door, has come back and said, you know what, we'll take your offer. They might lease back, but we're still going to have to do a little cleanup work in part of it. There's, their detention basin is right nearby. A bunch of these properties, the empty lot is just north of this little area. So if they had a spot where they could just leave some equipment dedicated to this, that is something that they're interested in doing. So yeah, they know what they're doing. It was when they showed me the itemized list, I was like, yeah, all that stuff will probably need to be done. So.
Okay, thank you, Marisa. Any other questions from the board?
This is Norman.
Norman, go ahead.
Go ahead, Norm.
I just wondered, I just noticed that one of them had waste cleanup at the top of the list on one of them. That waste cleanup startled me, worried me a little bit. It's not hazardous waste, is it?
We hope it's not hazardous waste. We have had environmental site assessments. They're called phase 1 ESAs done on these properties where these sorts of things were checked. They go back in history and look to see if there were ever possibly underground storage tanks, an old gas station, an old dry cleaning. They dump the stuff out the back door. The one thing that is always of concern in all of these is there's the railroad's right there. So in the past, there's always the possibility that there was a train derail, that stuff dumped off the train. So there's always that, and those are in all of our site assessment reports, that is a potential. It's not something that we felt we should go start digging and spending that kind of money to dig when we didn't see anything obvious. But someone was on site, looked at these places. As far as we know, since the time the ESA was done, there's no hazardous waste that we're aware of. Now, whether or not someone halfway buried it and you can't see it and it'll pop up, kind of like dam safety, you go open a dam and you find out how bad it really is. And I'm trusting that Weber Basin has dealt with this before and will know what to do. But as far as we know, there is none of that at this point.
The other question I had was related to the retention basin that was there. Has it been there long enough that the Army Corps of Engineers is going to get involved in that one?
I don't know. It is private. It's the detention basin for that neighborhood.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure. I wish Weber Basin were on. I don't know if Kyle, have you dealt with that in some of this?
Marissa, if I might jump in, where it's a man-made retention basin, hopefully the Corps wouldn't be able to take jurisdiction over it. I wouldn't assume they could.
This is Kyle. I was on mute when you asked the question, and no, I haven't had any experience there.
That's a good question, though, to ask. We'll mark a note of it and get that answered, because ultimately, if we put a pipeline in there, we're going to fill in some sort of retention basin, and it would need to be moved someplace else or taken care of some other way. So, Marissa, Shalane, Marissa, make a note of that, and we'll try to get that answered.
Yeah, and if you look on this slide to the far left, that's not corn or anything that's not crop. That is, my understanding is on the east side of I-15, immediately adjacent of their property, a man-made, basically man-made wetland has been, all along there from their drainage. So that is something that we will have to deal with in the future in the pipeline, possibly. Weber Basin has been on site to a few of these properties, including the detention basin. So they're aware of some of the situations that we have out there. They know that, and they've also seen the peach farm there, and that also has this line of kind of wetland marshy area in between it and the freeway.
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles. Just a couple of comments from Marissa. That value of that property is pretty interesting. I saw on the Hinckley report 2 weeks ago, they were saying the median home price in Utah is $589,000. So you're still under that. And so that's a good thing. On the one thing about it, it talks about pest control. Is that define weed control, or you know what that defines?
Rodent.
Okay.
Apparently there's voles up there like there are in my backyard.
Okay. Well, I looked at the Phragmites that's growing there next to that particular shot you have up right now, and weed control's a major battle throughout the state as well as Box Elder County. So weed control would be very beneficial for the county as a whole. Other than that, I'm kind of like Kyle, and the up to 975,000, because I think maybe I should retire from farming and come down here and manage this property. So slightly lucrative.
Well, some of them, we probably just put someone's horses on them and let them kind of chew away. The marshy area, I'm pretty sure that's within, I think that's still within UDOT's right of way. I'm not totally sure. If we go in this particular picture, let me switch back to the one. Hope I'm not getting anyone sick by jumping around like this. On this one, it's looking south to the right side of the picture is going west, and that's the railroad is right there, and then I-15 is right there. I mean, right there. This road is within UDOT's corridor. So our property is somewhere along the line of the stump of this tree and east. So there's going to be we're going to have to kind of figure out, even if the tree is not on our property, does UDOT want to go ahead and get rid of it now because it's lying on the edge? There's some things like that kind of need to be figured out. When we talk about the dumping and the waste, these big piles, there's a lot of Christmas trees after the storm, the windstorm. When I was up there and I noticed a lot more debris from trees and stuff got dumped back here. There's tracks on this road, not from my vehicle. I walked it, but there's a lot of ATVs and motorcycles that ride. They make jumps over here. So, we haven't seen like trash barrels, anything like that at this time. And that's part of the wanting to get there, get it fenced. Another reason that we want to fence things off where we can. Where it's prudent to keep that traffic down so people aren't backing up with their pickup trucks and dumping a barrel out. So that's something I did in my former engineering life in Florida. I did those phase 1 ESAs. And it's amazing. You can find them pretty quickly. People that want to dump stuff like that don't want to get stuck, and they don't want to take a long time where they can get caught. So they don't go very far into the property to dump it because they got to get out of there. So you can find things pretty quickly. But as far as the ESAs that were done on all of these sites thus far, the only one of concern that we had was the commercial property that we purchased that used to be the cannery. And there were concerns about older pictures showing, aerial photos showing round barrels. And so the question was, is that oil? Is that, and it was some sort of sugar to go with the canning. I think I mentioned this story. Todd Adams knows everybody, and he knew a guy who, of course, had worked there as a kid. And so we were able to connect the environmental scientists that doing the phase 1 ESA with that person and get a whole rundown, and felt very comfortable. There weren't any kind of underground storage tanks, that sort of thing. So all these properties, from what we can tell, it's surficial where we've got stuff dumped, not necessarily stuff buried.
Okay, thank you, Marisa. We probably better move along unless there's any further questions from the board on this. Randy Staker, any public comments received on this item?
No, there were no public comments.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Now, there was a recommendation or a request from staff that we take action and commit some funding for this effort. Do we have a motion to that effect from anyone on the board?
I'd be happy to make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I would move that the Board of Water Resources Fund commit up to $975,000 from the Conservation and Development Fund for a 5-year contract with Weber Basin Water Conservancy District for the maintenance of right-of-way properties for the Bear River Development Project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is
Kyle. I'll second it.
Okay, I believe, was that Norm on there first or Kyle? Which one of you wants it?
It doesn't matter. Kyle can have it.
Okay, Kai, so we have a motion, a second from Kyle. Got a motion, a second. Any clarification needed from the board on this motion prior to voting? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
I vote aye.
Weber River, Kyle Stevens.
Aye.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tannert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
I vote aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting has been unanimous by roll call, so the motion passes. Thanks again, Marisa. Okay, next on the item on the agenda is the Lake Powell Pipeline Report. Joel, can you give us a report on that?
I thought the next item was the 7th inning stretch. We stand up and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Is it?
It's about that. Just take us home, Joel.
You notice, yeah, there's 3 items left, and I will move quickly here on this one. I'm going to get my presentation going here if I can remember. Present now. I'm going to pick a window. Hopefully, are you able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
You need to do the view thing, but
I need to turn it into a presentation mode here.
Right.
Let's see. The button that I usually click is not working, so let me show.
Go up to slideshow on the top. Oh, you've got that. Okay.
Let's see.
It's not working, huh? What about up at the very top on the orange? Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going across to slideshow.
I'm going to try, this one here. I'm going to try just exiting out. I'm going to stop sharing and then see. Oh boy. Okay.
Joel, just for your information, I usually start the slideshow first
Okay.
and then share that.
Okay, let me try that. Okay. Okay. All right, let's try that, Shalane. Okay. Okay, hopefully this is coming up now.
Looks great.
Okay, which is weird because now I can't see it. But if you guys can, that is great. Hopefully they will advance. Anyway, the Lake Powell Pipeline, we are. Is it advancing for you? Because it's not for me.
No, it is not.
Okay. This is so weird. I've never had this happen. Okay, well, let's just give it a go here. Basically, what's going on is the Bureau of Reclamation is continuing to work on the supplement to the environmental impact statement. They reach out to us from time to time and say, hey, we've got some questions. Mainly the changes that are resulting into the EIS are from public comments that were received during the public comment period on the draft that was out last year. And so they are working to make those changes and update and hopefully coming out with a supplemental EIS later this year. We're thinking summer to fall timeframe. That would be out for another comment period and review. and then changes based on comments. And we're looking at a final out summer of next year. And then following that would be records of decision and the moving into the next phase of the project, which would be the design phase and then a financing plan, and following that construction. And so that's kind of where things are at right now. And that is just so weird that I cannot advance my slides, but next. Oh, did that do it? Okay, I'll try that. Some of the other things that are underway right now, the water rights change application, we're waiting for a decision from the state engineer on that. The public education outreach, I'll mention that there was a forum this week at the University of Utah Law School. They did a two-part series on this on the Lake Powell pipeline, and had a previous presentation from Paul Van Dam, a former state attorney general, giving the case against the Lake Powell pipeline. And then this week they had Zachary Renstrom from Washington County Water Conservancy District, as well as David Clark, former Speaker of the House, make the case for the Lake Powell pipeline. If there are any board members interested, I can send out YouTube videos of both of those presentations. They are very interesting to watch. So that kind of falls under public education outreach, just that there's a lot of public interest in this, and we're trying to get information out. We are also working with Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Utah for the water quality permitting. Still needing to do the Fish and Wildlife Service biological opinion. That'll be along kind of a parallel process with the environmental impact statement. And then also I know that Marty and Scott McGettigan are busily working with the Bureau of Reclamation on the exchange agreement, and that'll be finalized following the NEPA process as well. This hopefully, if you're able to see on the screen now, should be the tentative schedule. Kind of mentioned that before. We have the record of decision, again anticipating summer of next year, and then moving into financing and construction. The Stantec contract is looking good. The board, as you recall, updated that contract with amendment number 10 to carry us through the end of this process, to take us through the end of next year. So hopefully keep them on until we get through this process. The Bureau of Reclamation contract is looking good as well. I do anticipate with that one and likely Bureau of Land Management possibly needing to come back later this year for some additional funds for those, given the significant amount of work we're seeing from those two federal agencies. But for right now, they are looking okay. And that's my report. Are there any questions from the board on Lake Powell Pipeline?
Any questions, board, for Joel? Okay, Randy Staker, were any public comments received on this?
No, there were not.
Okay, thank you, Randy. There's been no action that the board needs to take on this. This was an informational update thing. Appreciate it, Joel. Lots going on there. Next item on our agenda is the director's report. Director Adams.
Good afternoon, all. Joe talked about the seventh inning stretch. I'm going to talk about the fourth quarter being up by 3 touchdowns. Let's see if we can make this win and not lose it. So I'll try to do this really quick. First and foremost, just want to apologize. We missed the public meeting notice on that. That took a little longer today in the meeting. We'll make sure we stay on top of that. Just FYI, we talked a little bit in the briefing meeting about meeting of the Drought Reporting Committee. In the middle of this meeting, around 2:30, I believe, the governor issued a executive order declaring the state of emergency due to drought conditions. So that is now out. And Candace had to jump off to go work on a couple of interviews as we speak. So just FYI. Reminder for you all as board members to get your travel and reimbursement forms in for the work and the meetings that you are involved in with the board. Randy, I believe, sent you an email out to get those in and get you reimbursed for all your awesomeness and the work that you do. Fourth, we've been 1 year into these COVID protocols, or just a little bit more. I just want to thank Blaine and you, the board, and all the staff for putting up with all these many virtual calls. It can be long, it can be tiring. It seems like I'm 10 minutes late to every virtual call and don't even have to travel. So, you know, that's where it's at. But anyway, thank you for your patience on that. I think we're zipping around the corner. Won't be long and we'll get to see your smiling faces in person, I hope. So we'll work towards that. Next meeting's May 5th, and we'll continue to plan on a virtual meeting. And with that, I just, again, want to thank you all, and especially our staff. You've seen all the presentations, all the work that's gone on and continues. And without staff support and work, we'd be nowhere. So thank you to the staff. Thank you to you for all the many things you can do, that you do. Mr. Chairman, that is my report.
Thank you. Appreciate the report, Director Todd. And I would like to echo my appreciation for each of you as board members for your efforts. Appreciate the staff and all the many things that are going on there. There are a lot of things going on in spite of COVID, and yet progress still goes on. The wheels are still in motion, and it's just rewarding to me to see everything that is taking place in the arena that we deal with. Thank all of you for your participation today. There's been a lot of things go on in the meetings today. Prior to closing, board members, do any of you have anything you'd like to add before we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make the motion that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
This Kyle, I'll second it.
Okay, and if anybody votes again, we'll have a roll call, but if anybody votes on it, you can stay online. Bear River.
Who votes today?
Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
I vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
Weaver River, Kyle Stevens.
Absolutely.
Salt Lake, Juliet Tennert.
Aye.
Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Aye.
Green River, Randy Crozier.
Aye.
Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Aye.
Lower Colorado River, James Lemon.
Aye.
Okay, the voting has been unanimous by roll call. Again, it's now 3:52, give or take, p.m. Thank you for your participation. The meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.